So what's up, everyone? Another Pain Freak Chef Classic stuffed cabbage. So I have a gig I'm doing today, and this is one of those that's going to be finished off at the client's house for the main dish anyway. I've got a quick appetizer I'm going to make when I'm there, though, while this is finishing off. And it's going to be fun, another Freak Chef gig. And they're requesting stuffed cabbage. So I figured, why not? This would be an awesome video to show you guys how I do my version of stuffed cabbage. There's a couple different steps. It's actually quite easy once you've done it once, and just pay attention. So I already have a pot of hot water going, because the first thing we need to do is core the cabbage, and I want to put it in the hot water to loosen up the leaves. And that's going to make it a lot easier to work with, because you don't want the leaves when they're cold or even fresh in at room temperature to be kind of brittle and just kind of be hard to pull apart. So I'm going to start with just in the middle of the cabbage, and I take a paring knife and I go in at an angle. This is the core of the cabbage right here, right there. I just go in at an angle, and I just work my way around little by little to get this hard, tough part out. It's kind of where the stem was. You can do this with a larger knife. I like to use like this little kind of elongated paring knife, because it's just what I'm used to. I've done this a few times. Okay, and that right there is ready to go into our pot. I like to kind of go with where that core was down, but it's going to roll around in there. It doesn't matter. Carefully drop it in. And again, this is just some boiling water. Nothing fancy. In the meantime, while that's in there, you want to have a strainer over a bowl or something ready to go, because that's only going to be in there for a few minutes. I'm going to move this off to the side, and I get a regular knife here, because while that's in there, I'm going to chop up some onion to use here in a second. And for this recipe, I actually need a half of this onion, so I'm just going to go ahead and half that right now. Okay, it's a little more. I'm cooking for 8, so this actually makes quite a bit for 8 people, a whole head of cabbage. And I always like having extra anyway, because people can always help themselves to more, and people take it home with them. And what's nice is I always like to make a little more for people to take with them, especially the guests, or the client can keep it. It's up to them. Because then they get to share it with their friends, and it's almost like free sample handouts. And just gives them a little something for the food wise to remember the night by. You know they're going to remember the night either way. But I'm just going to give these onions a good chop. And I'll run my knife through those again. So one head of cabbage makes about 12 to 16 stuffed cabbage leaves. Or you get about 12 to 15 leaves off of it before they really start to get too small. If I really have to, I have another head of cabbage, because I want to make sure, like I said, I have plenty. And this is such a nice, easy recipe. A lot of times, you can do this in a slow cooker. A lot of times people do it in like a larger skillet on the stove over low for a good hour or two. For this, since I'm carrying it in, and it is a larger group, I'm going to do it in a foil tray in the oven. Kind of like if you watch my round steak recipe, you'll notice you can do it in a larger pan, or you can do it in the oven on a lower setting and just let it bake. Of course, we're going to use our rack method, where we put a rack under it so the cabbage on the bottom does not burn to the bottom of the pan. It'll keep it up in the air. And there we go. So our chopped onion is ready. All right, this is pretty much done. Sliding this over here. We want to pull this cabbage out now, and it's a little waterlogged, so it's going to be a little heavier. So carefully, we're going to drop that in a strainer, and I just have it over that pan for now that we're going to use here in a little bit. And let me kill this filthy heat. We're going to dump the water, because we're going to use this as our mixing bowl here shortly. All right. So that's pretty much done. We're going to move that over to here. All right, so first thing going on with this pan is over medium heat. There we go. Get that hot. Add some butter. It's typically about a half a stick. And we let that melt. All right, there we go. So our butter's starting to melt. We'll go ahead and add our onion. Pinch of salt. That just helps start sweating that flavor out into the butter. Not gonna need too much yet. Spatula. Keep moving around. There we go. Get that all incorporated, and we're gonna let that just let the onion soften for about 5 minutes. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. Our onion is pretty softened, and our butter is nice and kind of fluffy, and it's looking really good. Smells amazing. Got some great flavor coming off of that, or great aroma anyway. This is a 16-ounce can of tomato sauce, plain, no seasonings or anything added to it. I like this better than the jarred stuff because you just want that tomato sauce type base. So we add that in. And using a plain tomato sauce like this right out of a can, again, it's just for the tomato flavor and that consistency of the sauce. At this point, we're going to add some black pepper and brown sugar. A little bit. There we go. And we start stirring that in. All right, next up, second part or third part, really. That's part one, that's part two, I guess. I pulled the pot off over here and I want it to cool because we're going to use this as our mixing bowl to start putting some of these ingredients in. So our cabbage is pretty much cooled off. I mean, it's warm enough to, or still cool enough to work with. I'm setting that off to the side because we're going to start making the rest of the stuffing for the inside of this. So it starts off with, we got basil, Worcestershire, we got rice, and we got an egg and some ground round. I'm using round because it's a little leaner than chuck or regular ground beef, and it also has enough fat in it where it's I don't know, flavor-wise, taste-wise, texture-wise, and fat content-wise, I just prefer ground round for this. You can use ground sirloin if you want, because don't forget, we have the onion, the butter, the sauce, all that we're going to get to here in a little bit. But for the most part, we want our stuffing, I don't want it too greasy, and round, I think, has the right fat consistency, or the right fat ratio to beef to really use for it. For this, we need an egg. We're just going to break that in our bowl first that we're going to use to mix up our filling. Egg. Hopefully that camera's catching what's happening in here. Could actually move this over so you can probably see it a little better. That's okay. There we go. There. So we beat our egg. Add our beef. Again, from my favorite butcher. This is 2 pounds, because I got extra, because I also have that other head of cabbage just in case we need it. But technically the recipe really only calls for 1 pound. You can also split it up, a ½ pound beef, a ½ pound pork. So, depending on how you want to do that. Next up, we're going to want to add some basil, and you can go with about 2 teaspoons. Another pinch of salt in here. There we go. Our Worcestershire sauce. I have our pre-made rice I cooked earlier, and we're just going to take that and it's pretty much just about done. I didn't want it completely cooked and soft and mushy, because while it's in the cabbage, it's going to get a little, it's going to cook more, especially with all that moisture in there. Just going to go ahead and add our rice. This is a half a cup of rice before it was cooked, so it made about 1 cup. All right, so that's pretty much everything besides the parsley that goes in here. Since our hands are pretty dirty, I'm going to go ahead and just get in here and mix it up, and then we'll add some parsley to it. Okay, so that's that. Time to change out our gloves again, because we're going to reset to do the next step of this. Be right back. All right, so here we go. Almost the final part. So far it hasn't been that hard. Blanch the cabbage, soften it up, make it easier to peel. Mix the filling mixture with the beef, the rice, and some seasoning. Make the sauce that's going to cover it. And of course, we're back to my setup pan, where I have a pan with the racks on the bottom. Set this way, it keeps it off the direct heat on the bottom, keeps it up in the air, and the sauce will cover that. So before we start adding the sauce, I do want to test it real quick, just to make sure before any of the raw meat touches it, that it's pretty much what we want. Perfect. All right. Now we're going to get to the filling part. So we have our cabbage. These leaves just come right off. You get another spoon here. For this, a tablespoon will work fine. And I'll pull that cutting board back out, because I want to show you guys how I roll these on a surface and not just in the air in my fingers the way I normally do it. So lay it out on your cutting board like this. Take your spoon, take a nice generous portion of the filling, drop it right in the middle, and give it a nice little roll. Okay, take your sides, fold it in. I'm about 1/3 from the bottom. Take your bottom, fold it over, and you just roll just like that. And then seam side down to keep it together, and right on your tray, just like that. And you just keep going through the whole head, and sometimes it's easier just to pull from the bottom. Again, out on the board. Nice generous scoop of filling. Right in. Roll. And you're done. Another cabbage roll. Now I'm going to keep a small little knife near me here, because what's going to happen is I'm just going to skip ahead here. Show you a little hack of mine. As you get closer to the center and the core, some of that stronger rib part of the cabbage is going to kind of make it hard to roll. So sometimes just cutting a slit in it, a couple slits going up, helps. Get our filling in there. Again, bundle it in, fold the sides, start with the stem side, and roll. There it is. So we're going to keep going, and by the time this is done, I'll show you the next step. Alright, so I got 1 round of cabbage done, and I'm ready to put these in the oven. I'm going to put some foil over them once I pour the sauce on. So we're going to get that going here in just a sec. Give that another quick stir to incorporate it. You'll notice that there are 2 here that are open. Those are for a, by request, they don't like cabbage, I found out last minute when I just looked at some of my messages. So we are going to make some that they can just pull the stuffing right out of and not have to worry about feeling awkward discarding the leaves or being rude not eating them. There we go. Next up, we're going to loosely wrap them with aluminum foil. I don't want the foil touching the tops of them. There we go. And then right into our 400-degree oven for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we'll check back on those in about an hour just to see how they're doing, see if we need to rotate the tray or anything. But once they're in the oven, just leave it and forget it until it's done. Don't forget about them though. So we'll pull those out here right before we get them ready to hit the road, show you what they look like when they're done, and believe me, they're going to taste amazing. All right, so here we are, 2 hours into roasting our stuffed cabbage, or kind of baking it in the oven because we're not using the stovetop like I said. It's time to get it out, wrap it up, get it in my hot boxes, and get it over to the clients. This is going to be awesome as fuck. I said, eat my fuck, everybody. This is ready to go. So I'm going to take it out, get our tray ready. Of course, since this is being carried in, the last part is going to be finished up when we get there, but want to make sure that we get it good and wrapped like we normally do. So one layer that way to the other, and it'll be ready to transport. Here we go. I'm going to do one at a time. I'll take one out, get this one ready, put it aside, load that, get the other one out. So, because we did two, remember? So here we go. Hand was right on that one. Keep that closed. And show you guys what this looks like now. Oh yeah. I'm going to spoon some of the sauce over it though. If you watched my filet mignon episode, you would have seen that. This special spoon of mine. I'm going to get the other tray out here in a second. Want to move fast. But at least this gig is only 15 minutes away. So it's not bad at all. There's a lot of liquid in here, and the sides are a little more shallow than I normally like them, so I want to make sure that he's good and covered. There we go. All right, let me get the next tray out. I don't want to keep this exposed too long. Let's get this aside. Put these back on top for now. Right around the pan to help contain it. Primarily just to hold all the juice in, so it doesn't make a big mess when I bring it out. I'm going to go ahead and load this into the little hot box in the back of my truck, and bring the other one out here in just a second. So I'm Paint Freak, the Freak Chef. That's my stuffed cabbage recipe. It's all ready to go. And I made sure the internal temperature was 165 degrees because of the egg in there that we're using as a binder. So we want to make sure that that's good. Plus the beef slow cooks and all the other ingredients inside, and that moisture and the hotness and everything. That's awesome. So it really just makes it more tender. It's not going to overcook anything. And with enough moisture and keeping that cabbage covered, it's going to be very nice, tender, and soft. So nothing's drying out and everything. I'm going to wait and take a few pictures of some of the cabbage, probably either from this tray coming out soon, or from one of them when I get to the clients. But if you want me to cook for you and one of your private parties, you want your personal private culinary paint toy, then let me know. I'm Paint Freak, the Freak Chef. Check out my website, paintfreakofficial.com, for how to book me to cook for your private event. I'm ready to go. And I'm very excited about. They're going to love it. Love you guys.